All right, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to a brand new week from the Celtic Way. It's a big week, guys. Two big games. Atalanta Wednesday night. A little bit fearful about that one, if we're honest, but we can discuss it. Motherwell on Sunday, not to be overlooked, guys. I suspect it will be, certainly over the next 72 hours. But Motherwell away, a pretty tasty game for us on Sunday. And of course, today we can look back on Saturday's game. I sense there'll be plenty to talk about. So, morning, everyone. Can see you're all incredibly keen. I hope you had a nice weekend, an all right Saturday, a not bad Sunday as well. We might mention that. Guys, how are you both? Tony, how's things?
Fine, all good. I'm heading out to Bergamo later today, so looking forward to that one. Can't wait for that, but well, maybe I'm not looking forward to that one, as the case may be. We shall see. But it'll be nice to go there and see what Celtic turn up in the Champions League away from home this time. But yeah, I thought Saturday was just top of the bill match. Lived up to its billing, didn't it? First 3 seconds. Still can't shake the thought that on any other day Celtic win that 3-2, 4-2 or 5-2. But I thought it was a cracking game of football. Cracking advert for the top two teams in the country going at it on the Scottish Premiership.
Yeah, it was certainly an exciting afternoon, Ryan. What was it like at the game?
Yeah, it was frantic. The second half was certainly frantic. Went through a wide range of emotions at Celtic Park on Saturday. At least the crowd did. I was staying pretty composed where I was, but yeah, it was of course. First half, Celtic were on easy streets. It looked as if they had the game wrapped up. I think that was maybe the worry. That's or maybe the reason why Aberdeen get back into the game. Between that and some nice tactical tweaks that Jimmy Tulline made at halftime, that certainly made a difference. One being Duke, as he was involved in absolutely everything in the second half. They've managed to find a striker that was AWOL for a month and a half and turn him into a bit of a world beater again for Aberdeen. So fair play to them on that regard. But yeah, second half, Celtic just lost control for a manic 10 minutes and it showed. It was absolutely crazy, to lose that goal early on in the 50th minute and then to concede again. As we were speaking before the briefing went on air there, Celtic concede goals sometimes in clusters, and that's what happened. They brought their European form almost into domestic football as well, with the fact that they lost not just the one goal but the two goals, and then maybe even the third goal if that one counts. Celtic got out of jail with that one. When that goal was disallowed, there was an eruption in the stadium, like a confidence, as if, right, Celtic have been through the ringer a wee bit here and they've got out the other end and it's still level. They're going to go and get this goal. They had another 15 minutes plus 10 minutes of injury time, I believe. I'm thinking when that third goal went in, they had a good amount of time to score a winner. And from the 90th minute to injury time, how Celtic never scored in that 10 minutes of play is beyond me. The chances that they had, I think of James Forrest having a couple of chances.
Do you want me to read them out, Ryan?
Yeah, go for it.
I sat today, rewatched the game and noted the 8 big chances we had in the final 15 minutes of the game, so 85 minutes onwards. James Forrest shot straight at the keeper.
Yep.
When I think Luke McCowan did well to set him up, should score. Forrest shot just wide of the post. It was kind of tough, I guess. He did well to get a shot away, but so close. Ida's goal that's disallowed for the Johnson foul on Mitov. I thought it was soft, but we know that keepers have that protection, so it was a foul. But I didn't think there was a lot in it. So that's 3. 4 was the one that just went over Bernardo's foot from the save from Mitov. Again, he's at the back post. It's a tap in. We had James Forrest shot over the bar that you might remember just after that. He struggled to keep down. Great chance that to get something on target at the very least. Free kick right in the edge of the box that I thought we wasted, to be honest. Adam Ida's header right at the end. Got to score. It's a brilliant ball in from Bernardo. Has to score. Great save. And then, of course, the Duke block from Johnston on the line right after that. So 8 pretty big chances and not one of them went in. It was remarkable.
Yeah, tells it all, doesn't it?
It was just absolutely crazy. Sorry, Tony. It was a crazy end to the game. I've got to say, from where I was in the stadium, I was pretty confident that Celtic were going to get the winner. I wasn't nervous for the 10 minutes, especially when 10 minutes were held up. I was like, Celtic have got more than enough on the pitch. They've got Nicholas Kuhn, who's been scoring goals, got Adamida that scores late goals for Celtic, Paulo Bernardo that scores screamers seemingly every second week. I thought the goal was going to come. So at full time, I had a bit of a weird feeling because I was like, oh, they didn't score after having so much time to do so. I wasn't. I mean, I was disappointed to an extent, but it was maybe just down to the fact that I was mystified at the same time that Celtic didn't get the winner because I was really expecting them to. It's
I
almost
agree with you.
well, that didn't happen. It's a bit of a weird feeling. And then the whole incident, I've watched it's probably the incident I've watched back the most out of everything in the game on Saturday. It's contentious, the block at the end. I don't think there's enough angles to show whether it's a handball on the line or not. I think it's a good block from Duke. It's one of those ones where if you've got this version of VAR, then there's always going to be a bit of dubiety with the decision just due to the angles that you see. But the no corner to be taken after that was really strange to me, especially given
I think
the
he'd been
fact that
watching Scotland Portugal in midweek and thought, yeah, I fancy a wee bit of that.
Absolutely. But Dimitar Mitov was wasting so much time in the Aberdeen goal that there was more time to play. He was taking at least 20 to 30 seconds to kick the ball for by kicks. So I didn't understand why there wasn't any extra time added there, especially given it was a big opportunity for Celtic at the end. It was a weird one, but damage averted.
A sour taste in my mouth. That, not to moan too much about the referee, but at least a sour taste in my mouth when you don't get to take a corner, because a corner for me is a goal scoring opportunity. You can crack your own jokes about it maybe not being with Celtic, because we had 18 corners on Saturday, 17 of them we got to take. But for me, I know there was 102 minutes in the clock, Tony, but let that corner be taken.
Yeah, of course. I'm just another one of Nick Walsh's baffling decisions on Saturday. For me, he had a terrible game, but I don't want to dwell on him too much. But I wrote a piece in the Herald, and I was talking to Kelvin Wilson about defending being an art. Now, Aberdeen defended very well on Saturday. They threw themselves in front of everything, didn't they? I think Ryan did the stats bomb report, and we were
14 blocks.
14 blocks, which were in the 12-yard box or 18-yard box or something like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
The shot map is something.
Yeah, 12 yards.
Ridiculous between the two sides.
So sometimes you have to say, you know what, it doesn't go your way. And I think that was that expectation. You just expected Celtic to score. And I think sometimes when people say, when you're down at the bottom, luck goes against you. See, when you're at the top, sometimes luck goes for you. And I think Aberdeen had a huge slice of that as well. And fortune, but you would have to say they maybe earned it because of the way they defended and the way they got themselves back into the game at 2-0. My concern was the 15 minutes where Celtic went AWOL. And I said before, and Ryan, you mentioned it, but we were talking about this off air. It's that cluster of goals that Celtic lose in these periods. It was usually a European thing. You don't want that to become a domestic thing. And they have to sort that out big time. Because I think if Duke's goal stands for 3-2, I don't think Celtic are coming back from that. I've got to be honest. I could be wrong. But after that, as Ryan said, the noise and the roar when that goal was disallowed, then they throw the kitchen sink at Aberdeen. And as I say, 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, you wouldn't have had any qualms about it. It didn't happen. But conversely, you get a point, everyone says it's 2 points dropped. It's actually a point gained because of what happened on Sunday. And both teams are 6 points ahead of Rangers, who are now in third place. So you can look at it that way. It's like everything else. I think the Celtic fans just expected Celtic to go and win that game. Sometimes it doesn't happen. But a brilliant advert for Scottish football. It was just a cracking game of football. I think you have to hold your hands up and say that. And Jimmy Tilleen making the changes that affected the outcome of the game. And you counted them there, Hamish. 8 chances. My goodness, what more can Celtic do other than score? And it was a game in 3 stages, wasn't it? First half, all Celtic, really clinical. That 15-minute period when they just went AWOL, and then the rest of the game pummeling the Aberdeen boxing and it not falling for them. So it was kind of 3/3 in terms of the game, the way it panned out. And but you move on. You just have to accept it. And as I said on the after show, you can't cry about not getting a challenge, and then when a challenge comes along, you know what I mean, and Aberdeen do well and they get their point, and then say, "Oh, life's unfair." That's the nature of football. It's the nature of competitive sport. And Aberdeen were worthy competitors on Saturday. Can they go the distance? Still too early to say. Still very early to say. But Jimmy Tilleen's got them playing well, and he's got a camaraderie and a team spirit fostered there. So let's see how long it can last.
It sets up the game in a fortnight at Hampden. I mean, it was already going to be a cracker, but you're now going up against an Aberdeen team who have come to Celtic Park and gone away with a point. We're also playing them early December at Pittodrie, and that's a midweek night game, guys. So 2 really big games coming up against Aberdeen, and I can't wait for it. Richard, probably summing up how a lot of people feel, actually apologising for being grumpy on Saturday. Oddly felt better at 2:00 on Sunday, and I guess a lot of Celtic fans feel like that. And
morning,
I know
Richard.
that people might not think that's the right thing, that you have how you feel about Celtic determined a little bit about what happens across the city, but that's just the way it is in Glasgow, and it's been like that forever, and it will continue to be like that. Even on Saturday, though, after the game, before we saw Rangers' hilarious collapse yesterday, I felt all right, to be honest. I was really frustrated that we let the lead slip, a costly 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes effectively stopped us winning that game. But also I was frustrated that we weren't able to get that goal, because like you, Ryan, I felt that the goal was coming. And I think if we'd have got another 3 or 4 minutes, I actually think we might have scored, because it just felt like the chances were getting bigger and bigger as we got deeper and deeper into stoppage time. But a little bit after full time, about 10 minutes, to be honest, I actually felt all right, because I felt we'd witnessed a pretty good game. I didn't actually think the quality at times was that high. I thought it was quite a scrappy game. I thought there was a lot of stray passes, mainly from our players, but Aberdeen as well. They go quite direct. They don't really tend to play Aberdeen. But I thought in terms of entertainment and in terms of both teams approaching the game, both teams trying to score goals in that game, I thought I came away feeling quite good about ourselves. Celtic can play far better. Celtic weren't great, but I think we're just going through a little bit of a dip at the moment. I don't really see the need for a big overreaction here. I don't think Arnie Engels is suddenly a waste of money, or Adam Ida's a waste of money, or Trusty's not got it, or Carter Vickers. There's no point in even trying with him because he's got an injury. I just think at times we just need to look at it game by game. It's been a really good start to the season. Saturday was disappointing not to win, especially when we're 2-0 up, but we move on, and that's kind of how I feel, Ryan.
Yeah, I would largely agree with everything, and it does help that result on Sunday. You've got to mention it, because Rangers are going to be tight, or will try and be title challengers. I mean, if they're going to be that or not, I'm not so sure, given the way that they're playing this season, especially away from home. It's one of those weird ones where, do you think that Rangers drop points if Celtic win that game? Do you think that affects them? Do you think they would drop points anyway against Kilmarnock? It's one of those ones that's weird.
I just think
I would
they're
like
hopeless, to be honest, Ryan. I just think they're done.
I did watch the game yesterday. I watched the full 90 minutes, and it was a really poor quality game. I thought there was moments in Saturday that was a really poor quality game, as you were saying. There was a lot of giving away the ball, but I would be more worried if Celtic weren't getting those chances than the fact that they're missing those chances. Because you look at the numbers: 33 shots on target. No, 33 shots on target. We would have scored more than 2 if that was the case. 33 shots, 7 on target. They've got to do better in terms of testing Dimitar Mitov on the day. I just think that players need to be a bit sharper in front of goal. With Trusty and Scales, they both had chances with headers in the box. But for Adam Ida, you're looking for somebody like him to be calm under pressure. He's shown it before. He can be calm under pressure and score big goals when required. It just wasn't his day for whatever reason on Saturday. With Kyogo, it's effectively finished as a contest if he scores that chance just at the start of the second half before Aberdeen score. because I think they basically score like a minute after Kyogo has that chance. And from 3-0, from potentially going 3-0 up, it's then 2-1 and Aberdeen are right back in the game. The complexion of the game changes completely.
Yeah.
And from then on, Aberdeen get a lift. And with Shinnie's shot, yes, it takes a massive deflection, goes in the back of the net. If you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery. And he takes the chance and he gets a huge slice of luck, but it goes in the back of the net. All of a sudden they're flying and they're going for a winner. And they got one with Duke, but obviously it was given as offside, and then there was the momentum shift again. It was a wild game, but I think Celtic contributed to that wildness by being not at their best for that 10-15 minute spell that allowed Aberdeen to get back into things, because when both teams were playing football in the first half, there was one team that was far better than the other. And as much as they're level on points at the moment, there is one team that is significantly better at football. They just don't show it all the time, and they let their levels drop ever so slightly, and that's the reason why it was a draw and not a win for Celtic at the weekend.
Yeah, Scott's saying that, Tony, that lose control for 10 minutes against most SPFL teams and you lose maybe a corner or two, but you're going up against I think a decent team's a way to describe. Aberdeen by Scottish football standards are a good team, and that opening goal they scored, the pass from McGrath is fabulous.
Oh, it passes.
People are criticising Liam Scales, and maybe Scales is at fault slightly, but the pass is brilliant and a really good finish as well.
It is an exquisite pass, Hamish, but I criticise Liam Scales because it's not for the first time he's been caught hopelessly out of position. You know what I mean? You have to mark Duke. Duke's coming on to make his presence felt and affect that game. You know, sorry, not Duke, Sockler. You know, so sorry, Sockler. You know, so and my criticism of Scales is that he's got a tendency to switch off. He saw it in the semi-final against Aberdeen at Hampden, where he switched off a couple of times and just bread and butter balls into the box, and that's my worry. He getting away with it because, you know, as you say, the standard in Scottish football isn't particularly great, and you can get away with it. But when you play against better teams, concentration has to be there, focus all the time. You know, Sockler's in behind it. It's a brilliant pass. I'm not getting away from the ball with Jamie McGrath. It's absolutely exquisite. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But Scales, for me, that switching off, Aberdeen get in, that switches the whole complexion of the game. Because as Ryan said, Celtic have a chance for 3-0. Kyogo doesn't take it, fine. But you've got to be aware of your surroundings. And it's becoming microcosmic of Scales' Celtic career. Yes, he's a most improved defender. He's been our best defender since the start of the season. But he just has this tendency to switch off at a point in nearly every game. And Celtic are getting punished because people are seeing that. And I think they're targeting that. Certainly European teams target it. Now, you don't want the domestic teams to start targeting it. But Aberdeen certainly have targeted it because they did it in the semi as well. And they see him as a potential weak link, which is why everybody was crying out for an upgrade in Scales during the summer. And they've gone out and spent $6 million on Austin Trusty. Jury's still very much out on Austin Trusty as well. And as I say, these are, you know, people see them as criticism, but I always say they're observations on a particular player. And it's not overboard, you know, a laceration of Scales, because I am seeing he's been Celtic's best defender in the absence of Carter Vickers this season. But he has to be fully focused, has to be switched on at all times. Granted, the pass was great, but Scales is nowhere near him.
Yeah, the issue I had more with it personally was the lack of pressure in midfield on McGrath. I think if there's more pressure on him, Brendan Rodgers said after the game, the high line that we play, you can't play that high line if there's not the pressure from midfield because it's so easy to exploit. The other point I'd make, just to defend Scales slightly, you know, if Carter Vickers is next to him,
well,
does that happen?
He's not.
Yeah.
It's not, is he? So that's the thing. So
I don't think the collapse happens if Carter Vickers is playing. That's where Celtic are at. Carter Vickers is that important to the defensive backline that he will stop that from happening. And I know he's injured, and that's a big problem that he's injured for a lot of these games. It was a big game at the weekend. I know that they could have maybe played him, but you play that risk of aggravating his toe injury even more so. But at the same time, it was a big game against Aberdeen at the weekend. Granted that there was no damage done. There was actually a point gained due to the result the next day. But, for a big game against Aberdeen, I think he must have been prioritising the Atalanta game for Carter Vickers if he is going to play.
And you're going to see passes like that from Atalanta on Wednesday. So
without a doubt,
we'll come on and chat about that before we go. But for all the fact that I'm feeling good generally about Celtic, and I think the weekend was, we wanted to win, we didn't. Fine, move on. But for me, Atalanta on Wednesday, that could be a long night for us based on that performance. We're going to have to see a what was that?
Watched it through the cracks in the fingers, I think you'll find.
Okay. Very good, very good. Yeah, I mean, Atalanta are going to be trying balls like that, and if we don't have the pressure in midfield, the balls that are going to come off. I think Trusty's quick. Scales isn't particularly quick, so yeah, it's a tough one, but we definitely need more pressure in midfield. I'll go through a few more comments, guys, and then we can chat about Atalanta. Gary saying, why did the wheels come off whenever we concede a goal? It's confidence and systems happen, it seems. I still thought we could have got out of jail at the end, but didn't seem to be our day, is all. Susie saying it was like a pinball machine. The last 10 minutes was up and down off my seat. That much I could have been in the standing section. Did they not just stand the whole time, Susie? Anyway. Hazel, a lot of our missed chances at the end, you have to give some credit to Aberdeen. They were blocking everything. Yes, 100% credit to Aberdeen. We got a comment in a minute ago saying, can you not just admit Aberdeen played well? I think we'd all agree Aberdeen played well, and especially in the second half. But we're here to chat about Celtic as well, and there's things we clearly could have done better. Welsh Paul, apart from not winning, it was a fantastic game, had everything. Again, a point we've all made. I thought it was a great game. As I say, quality at times wasn't great, but entertainment-wise, what was the mood like when you left Celtic Park, Ryan? Obviously, fans would be disappointed we didn't win, but I mean, no one could argue they didn't get their money's worth in terms of like a decent game.
I think people were shattered, to be honest, at the end of the game. Thanks due to the fact that it was 102 minutes of football. You had the extra time before halftime as well, so everybody was a bit shattered after the game. It was a very muted walk out of the stadium. People were chatting away, but it just felt as if they'd been through the ringer a wee bit with the game. And that's me just being completely honest. It was a crazy 90 minutes of football. Like I've said earlier on, I was totally expecting the goal to come. Maybe that's on me, but I was completely expecting it to come. And the fact that it didn't sort of brought me down a little bit. Not disappointed, but almost as if, they didn't score. They only get a point out of this game. But yeah, I'm not concerned. I don't think it's a crisis or anything. You've dropped points to the second best team in the league at this present moment, the joint best team in the league, actually, you would say. They're going to beat most of the teams that they play this season. They're very well managed under Jimmy Tulin. They can change it if it's not working at half-time. I didn't even know Kevin Nisbet was playing until he was taken off at half-time for Aberdeen, but they made changes and they worked for them. And it's clear looking at the underlying stats that they're definitely playing for their manager as well. You look at the amount of pressures that they managed in the game. The likes of Duke, the likes of Clarkson, Graham Shinney, other players as well. They're all playing for this manager. And it's very clear to see. And it was a left field appointment from Aberdeen, but they've got it spot on. They've clearly done their research. They took the time, because they did take their time in appointing a manager once Neil Warnock was out the door, when he had that sort of temporary shift as the Aberdeen manager for about 3-4 weeks. They took their time. They found the best person for the job, and it's clearly paying off for them. So they deserve credit for that. It's going to be a very interesting game when Aberdeen play Rangers a week on Wednesday at Pittodrie. Celtic play Dundee at home.
Same time.
I think it's 15 minutes earlier they play, quarter to 8 for the Celtic Dundee game. Quarter to 8, and then it's 8 o'clock for the Aberdeen Rangers game. So that's a chance to put further pressure on as well. Be very interesting.
Rangers that night, yeah, because hopefully our title rivals drop points.
I don't know if I'll go that far, Hamish. I've been kind of thinking about it in my head. We've got other games to play before then. Obviously, Celtic have got a difficult trip to Motherwell. They've got Atalanta in the Champions League. But all of a sudden you're looking ahead at these fixtures, and it's quite exciting this in the
It is.
Scottish Premiership, and it's a great advert for the game. I think a lot of people were ruining the fact that game wasn't on the telly on Saturday. I don't think they'll be making that mistake again when Celtic and Aberdeen play. I think you'll see that game be on telly quite a few more times this season, if possible.
Brown Warrior pointing out, and you're totally right, Brown Warrior, that Carter Vickers was caught out by one of those balls down the side in the cup semi. He's not perfect, but I think it makes a difference when he's in the team. But I take your point. I thought the subs were good, Tony, when they came on. I thought Paulo Bernardo, really, some of the crosses from Bernardo from corners were excellent. Engels weren't bad either when we put them in the box. I thought James Forrest, as much as shooting was off, I thought he was lively when he came on. But Luke McCowan was excellent, and Chilpel was mentioning that as well. McCowan looked fabulous when he came on. Like he looks much better than I thought he would be.
I did write last week that the manager, I wrote a case for him possibly being in the starting 11. I think that case is now merited. I think he must start against Motherwell for part.
Agreed.
For me, right? He does. He starts because I love what he brings to the table in Celtic, where he was excellent when he came on, and he was inches away from winning a penalty. That wee spin and turn that earned the free kick. He's just. It was excellent, and he enticed the Aberdeen player into it, and that's what I wanted to see in and around the box, because I think one of the contributors, commenter, said Aberdeen were throwing themselves into everything. Look, McCowan realised that and said, "Okay, throw yourself into me now when I'm dancing in and around the box," and he was trying that. So that's intelligence. That's game intelligence for me, So I just like what he brings to the table. But like you, I'm not overreacting. Lots of people were, giving it tight to the likes of Arne Engels. Engels was excellent in the first half. He fell away. The whole midfield fell away that 15, 20 minutes and lost the grip. But then they got it back again when Bernardo and McCowan came on. So, but, Engels' pass to Kyogo for the first goal's tremendous as well.
Yeah.
The one he tries to clip Mitov and it hits the top of the crossbar. He's inches away from that being, perfect execution. And again, this is a guy who's still growing into it as well. Do I want more from him? Yeah, I want more from him when it goes to each. I think Ryan said in his man by mans he wants more when it's from Engels when the chips are down. But he's still learning how to be a Celtic player and not enough sample size to turn. But some of them mad judgments that were thrown out on Saturday night, and it is the knee jerk to not winning. You earn the right to win. You don't have a divine right to win, and I think that was for me. It was frustration. There was disappointment, but you sort of say, okay, Aberdeen came down to prove to themselves more than anything that they were a good team. We accept they are a good team. Can they sustain it? Question mark. Our manager said Celtic will need to be better, and they will be. See, when he makes statements like that, you listen, because he knows what needs done, and he knows certain players, need to up it. The midfield just disappeared for 15, 20 minutes, and that just can't happen, because you saw what happened when they disappeared, and I include everybody in that. I include Engels, I include Hatate, and I include McGregor. And Engels and Hatate bossed that first half.
Yep.
Celtic were excellent. So, in amongst that, there was some good things that you need to marry everything in a full 90-minute performance.
I agree with you. I thought Rio Hatate was really good in the first half. I thought Arne Engels was really good in the first half. Really involved in things. They both drifted out it. They all drifted. McGregor drifted out it as well in the second half. But as you said earlier, Ryan, Engels for that one right at the start of the second half, the set up for Kyogo was left foot. It's a fabulous pass, and Kyogo should have scored that. And if he had scored that would have been one of the goals of the season, because we worked it all the way, I think, from Schmeichel through the press, cut through Aberdeen. And if we score that, Aberdeen aren't coming back from 3-0. So it's just those, as you said earlier, Ryan, it's those fine margins. But I struggle with some of the knee-jerk stuff over Arne Engels. I thought Engels was fine. I think he drifted away from it a bit in the second half, but it wasn't a terrible performance like people are are making out. I guess that's nothing new. That's just the way some people react to Celtic struggling, and that's what it is.
Is there a wider issue in the second half of games that Celtic, for a 10-minute spell between the 50th and the 60th minute, as if you're kind of waiting on McCowan and Bernardo or Hatate or whoever's coming off the bench, you're waiting for those players to come off the bench because you know that the likes of Engels, Hatate, Bernardo, if he's playing, they've ran their race and you're waiting for the reinforcements to come in. Why can they not? I mean, I don't know why they're drifting out of the game when they've had a 15-minute rest in between. They should be going full pelt until the 60th minute and then they've ran their race rather than... I'd like to see some of these players last more than the 60, 65 minutes, to be honest, because I think Hatate was pivotal to everything good that Celtic were doing in the first half. He was taking the ball, taking it in good areas. I was going as far to say Hatate in the first half looked like the Hatate that was playing under Ange Postecoglou for a spell. Those great performances against Aberdeen that he'd shown previously. He was showing glimpses of that again under Brendan Rodgers in the first half. But he just, in the second half, for whatever reason, they just faded, and Engels faded as well. I would have made the case that McCowan should have been brought on earlier than he did, to be honest, because when he came on, instantly there was a difference made in the middle of the park. Every touch that he makes is positive. He wants to go forward and he wants to make things happen. He's all attack, he's all action. He's the first name on the team sheet for me against Motherwell. He's got to start now. And I would actually go as far to say Bernardo needs to be starting more games as well. I think he's a starter in this team at the moment. I don't know who you take out. That's the job for Brendan Rodgers. It's why he's getting paid more than any other manager in Celtic's history to figure out who starts in that midfield. But
who starts on Wednesday?
Engels and Bernardo, probably. I think you need...
I would start the same as Saturday. I'd start Engels and Hatate.
He was good in the second half or he was decent in the second half against Borussia Dortmund when he came on and tried to make things happen. But I just think you need a bit of defensive discipline in the midfield as well. Now, I know that Bernardo was anonymous against Borussia Dortmund. It was a bad night for everybody involved in that
Bernardo
game.
especially, though, wasn't he? He was awful.
I just think Hatate gives you nothing defensively. He's not a good tackler of the ball. He isn't good at intercepting the ball. He's a great creative player and a great creative option. And I do sometimes agree with fighting fire with fire and putting your most creative players on the park. But I just think you need defensive stability in that midfield as well. I think Celtic just need a number 6, to be honest.
Do we have defensive stability in the midfield? Is there an option there? I don't think there is, because look, you're saying Bernardo, but Bernardo didn't work against Dortmund. Unless you're looking at going two. I've heard a lot of people saying, well, we go 2 deeper players and then one in front, and that would be McGregor and Engels, wouldn't it? And then you'd probably have Hatate ahead of them.
I was told before Engels signed, or when Celtic were looking at Arne Engels, that he played as a defensive midfielder for Augsburg. So if he's available to do that, then I'd quite like to see him in that role to give something different. Because one thing's for sure, against Atalanta, you're going to get punished with Callum McGregor playing as the number 6, because European teams just cut through Celtic when McGregor plays there. I'd like him to play as the 8 and maybe try something different and put Engels as the number 6. But I just think it's a wider issue, and Celtic probably going forward need a stable option at the number 6, like a destroyer sort of player, or not even a destroyer, but a number 6 that can do the defensive work and get the ball out of his feet quickly.
Let's not shy away from it. There's a question to be asked about McGregor as well, isn't there? Mm-hmm. He's not undroppable, is he? I know he's the captain of the team, but of the midfielders on Saturday, McGregor was particularly poor. And it pains you to say that. He had one shot in the first half, which I thought he should have did a lot better with. He screamed it over the bar, but I thought you were mentioning somebody else earlier, James Forrest, I think you said. McGregor's got to get that in target.
Yeah.
So we have to start asking the question now about McGregor, because that is, with Henrik Larsson saying it's the elephant in the room, and it is the elephant in the room. He is getting to the twilight of his career, and you're asking him maybe to do things that he just can't do anymore, i.e. be that number 6. So
put someone next to him. Put Engels next to him on Wednesday night.
That's fine if he does that, Hamish.
He won't, will he?
He has to do something, but because you can't take
he
another
will.
caning like you did against Dortmund.
I'll be surprised if we see that.
And he said he wasn't going to change his style, didn't he? But he has to do something for Atalanta because it could be a long night. Atalanta are arguably better than Dortmund. Arguably, I say. And, you need to do something in there. Yeah, you need to do something in Europe to combat the threat. So, and I'm not having a go at Callum McGregor. I'm just talking about there's questions to be asked now about the midfield and his role in the midfield and the fact that he's advancing years and playing all these games. And you're talking about hungry players like Bernardo, guys like McCowan, Engels, people's jury out on Engels as well at this minute. That kind of knee-jerk overreaction type thing. I mean, would you be averse to a midfield? I'll never do it. Of Bernardo, Engels, and McCowan on Wednesday night. Tell you what, you'd have energy and you'd have legs, but you'll never drop the captain, will you? But it might be a question for the future. Further down the line in certain games.
The way that
on Wednesday night. But I mean, you'll never drop the captain. You're just going to do that.
No, that's the thing.
It's kind of rhetorical in my head, but the more you think about it, the more you're starting to say, does it make some kind of sense? That's all.
It's just the way I watch Engels, and I watch him as an attacking midfielder. He can completely play as the number 8, as the number 10. I'd like to see him as the number 6. I think he's got the physicality needed to play the number 6, and he's got the legs as well. The way that he plays, it does give me shades of a number 6 player in the way that he's tall, but he's good with the ball. He's a playmaker as well, but he can also put a tackle on. I'd like to see him as that because he played there for Augsburg in the Bundesliga. That's where he played the majority of his games for Augsburg before he joined Celtic. Why not? Look, take some of the defensive pressure off of McGregor. Play him as a number 8, not as a number 10. I'd play him in the middle of the park and give someone behind him. Give him that freedom to express himself a little bit more in the middle of the park, but give him this solidity at the back. And Engels can be that player. He can still get chances because McGregor gets chances even playing in the deeper role, but he has more of a defensive mindset. I'd just like to see something changed up for Europe because I think there's got to be changes after the Dortmund game. That can't, as much as it could happen again, it can't happen again, losing 7-1 to a team. It's demoralising.
If we take another scudding on Wednesday night, I think we just got a comment in about it. Brendan Rodgers is going to take absolute pelters, even more so than before. And I think a section of the support will turn to an extent because we can't continue to go into these games and be absolutely battered. Something has to change. We have to, at the very least, be in Wednesday's game. We can't have another thumping.
Yeah, without a doubt. So what do? Flood the midfield? Never do that either, will he?
I mean, first time at the club, his first spell, he played a 4-2-3-1, didn't he? It was McGregor and Brown generally. So why not do the same? Engels and McGregor, and then you can play Bernardo, you can play Hatate, or even Luke McCowan ahead of them. Gives you a bit more solidity. Because the issue for me, one of the many issues we had in Dortmund was when we gave the ball away. And by the way, that's something we need to work on. We can talk about defensive shape. We need to keep the ball better in Bergamo. But when we gave the ball away in Dortmund, we had like Engels and Bernardo were already ahead of the ball. And the Dortmund player, usually Brandt, just turned and the runners went, and it was only really McGregor they had to beat.
We had no midfield to combat it.
Yeah,
that was we had no midfield when we committed forward in that high press and criminally gave away the ball, which we did the whole night in Germany. With nothing to stop them, nothing to repel them. So they were just walking through in waves and, just cutting right through you, which is why the first half collapse happened. It just can't happen again. It's just, so you have to do something to combat that. I mean, we're talking about it. Hopefully the managers, they've been speaking about it since the Dortmund game. But you just worry, don't you? That's all. You just worry about the way Celtic approach these games away in Europe and how, excuse me, and the fact that they just seem to lose 1, 2 and 3 goals at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me greatly.
Yeah, it's funny because we went into the Dortmund game all feeling pretty good and all feeling kind of hopeful of a result. And I'm not sensing the same positivity from anyone. I've not seen a single comment saying we can go to Bergamo and even get a result. But the reality is that all the things we said ahead of the Dortmund game, they still exist. We still have these players. Okay, they might not be playing quite as well as they were going into that Dortmund game, but we still have the pace of Kuhn and Maida and Kyogo, and we still have Engels and Hatate or Bernardo or whoever, players who can hurt Atalanta. You know, Atalanta are a top team, but they're not a top team. They're not like a Real Madrid, Man City. So Celtic should be going there and thinking, you know, maybe we can get a point here. But the team are going to have to prove to us that they can do it, because they really let us down against Dortmund, and they have a bit of making up to do on the European stage. At the very least, really competing in this game. If we lose, we lose, like we're expected to lose. But they cannot have another one of these typical Celtic away games in Europe where we concede a goal and the heads go down and we concede another goal in quick succession. And I'll be honest, yeah, I'm a bit concerned we might see a repeat on Wednesday night. Something has to change, but we've got 2 days to preview this game, guys, so plenty of time, and I'm sure there'll be more chat from the Aberdeen game. Anything else you want to get off your chest for Monday's show?
No, I'm just damage averted due to yesterday's result. As much as I don't want to talk about that too much, you know, it's completely separate. It does help at the same time. It did sort of take away the disappointment ever so slightly. I know people were like, "Oh, what would have happened if Celtic would have won? They would have been even further ahead. They would have been further of Aberdeen." This is the way the season will go. It's just ups and downs until Celtic get to where they need to be at the end of the season. I'm supremely confident that they'll be where they need to be at the end of the season. It's their first drop points of the season against Aberdeen. They still get loads of chances. They just didn't take their chances. We move on. My hope is not to get too much of a beating that it then impacts onto your domestic games, because it's a difficult game at the weekend against Motherwell at home. Fir Park's always quite difficult to go to. So if they can make a good account of themselves in Bergamo, maybe get something. If not, then at least compete for the 90 minutes. And I don't think anybody would complain. Then they've got a couple of home games to negotiate in the Champions League, and they can get their campaign back on track. But anything else is a bonus for me personally, and not to downplay the game. But Bergamo is a very difficult place to go to under Gasperini's Atalanta. We know how good they are. They've got players all over the team that can hurt Celtic. They put an end to Bayer Leverkusen's dominance in all competitions. I'm hoping that Celtic can maybe spring a bit of a surprise, but I'm not as disappointed as what I was, or you know, a bit miffed as I was on Saturday, thanks to things that happened on Sunday. But we move forward.
We do. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time once again. It's going to be a busy week, everyone, as we say. Atalanta to come Wednesday evening. Early kick-off on Wednesday as well, isn't it? Quarter to 6, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it'll either make your evening or you'll be off to bed nice and early on Wednesday. Right, okay, we'll head for now. As I say, thanks everyone for tuning in, watching. A lot of you aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you would mind subscribing right now, it would really mean a lot. It makes what we do worthwhile. It allows more Celtic fans like you to find the channel. And if you enjoy the channel, think about how someone else who doesn't know about us could feel. So please subscribe, that'd be much appreciated. You can sign up for early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function as well. Much is that, Ryan? $2.99?
$2.99 a month. You can press the join button or next to the subscribe button, or if you're on desktop. So if you want to support us that little bit more, please do so.
Okay, we're heading. Thanks everyone. Speak to you tomorrow.